In today's video, we're looking at the provocations encounters in Porta di Ferro Stretta. So this is our third guard. It's a little bit shorter than the Corona Stretta, but it is have quite a few interesting and plays that repeat themselves. So we'll look at, in particular, the punta reversa and the feint, this stradazzone-like action. So starting from sword by itself, our first action is to beat the sword, can come right back down with a madrito to the opponent's wrist, or this part of their arm. So again, simply we're going to have the left foot push the right forward and strike to the closest target, the hand, not the face, not the head. In response to this, we're going to take that energy as they beat our sword and step back at an angle, ending up in cinghiale. If I hit the hand, that's great. He does not give a target, so it's more just to interrupt their action. Next up, we have a ridoppio to the sword, so we can give a imrakata to the chest. So we take a small little step to their left, their inside, and thrust. In response to this, as they beat our sword, when the imrakata comes, we're going to do our standard reversal defense, beat and thrust. So essentially doing pretty much what they did to us as our counter. Next up, we have our feint. So we're going to give the look of a stradazzone, but instead throw a reverso to the thigh. And because they are likely to come back to our outside, we want to get our sword in the way. So I like going to unicorn. So again, we're going to get this nice big look, and then we turn it to the little outside, and then bring our sword back up to defend. Next up, we have the punta reversa suite. So we have three possibilities here, two of which he describes in the agent section, and then three he describes in the response section. So there's an implicit second one. In all three cases, we're going to start with beating the sword to create some time, and then thrust to the face. And now, depending on how they respond, false edge, true edge, a bit more out, a bit more flat, I have a couple options. So option one is we beat, we thrust, and we step around, presumably because they've gone a bit too far, gone a bit past their shoulder as they defend. Second option is if they use their true edge, we're going to take that energy and cut their arm with a ridoppio, and then finish up with, say, an imrakata, because those tend to go together. Our third option is to do two punta reverse. So we beat the sword, thrust the face. As their sword comes to defend, we're going to drop our point underneath, thrust to the chest, and come back to guard. Now, against the first one, we're going to be using our false edge, stepping a little bit to the side, and then as they come around with the madrito, so I'm going to strike the inside of the hand and slice the wrist. Against the ridoppio, we're using our true edge, which is going to draw them to do that. So the important thing here is we want to keep moving to the inside and use a reverso. So actually we have seen before. So we're here, we're going to beat. As they come to the inside, we're going to step around and throw a reverso. I'm not aiming to hit anything here, but I am trying to get my hand out of the way so it doesn't get struck by their reverso. So again, we're going to beat as they come up to our arm. We'll step around, getting out of the way, and then hopefully striking the arm, but if not, we've interrupted their action. Finally, against the two reverse thrusts, I'm going to parry the first one. As they come around and underneath to the chest, we're going going to beat and give our own punta reversa to their face. Finally, we have one more action here, which is using my true edge, putting it on top of theirs, and thrusting to the chest or face. This can be done on either side, so whether we're true edge, and I simply put it over top and thrust, or I find myself on the other side, we gain the sword and strike with the thrust to the chest. Now, depending on which side is happening on, but the more likely scenario is that we're starting false to false, and I use this kind of high kudlung alta, or even an entrare. As that is happening, I want to let it and strike the arm by stepping out and around to their inside. So we will let it happen and strike the arm as it's extending, about to hit. So that's all for the sword in one hand. If we pick up the dagger, we have a few more options. So the first action is almost identical, except our target is a bit different because we have this to make it a bit safer. So we're still going to push the right foot forward or left, but now we can actually go for the face. As the person on the receiving end, I'm going to take that energy and strike to the hand because they are going a little bit further. So as they beat the sword, we're going to get the dagger in the way and cut to the exposed right arm, ending up in cinghiale. Our second action is very, very similar to the invitation. It's just safer. And now we're going to still give the look of this action, cut the leg. This is covering my high line, but I still want to get my sword back in action. Now, as the person responding to this, we're going to reach out with the dagger as we feel them coming low to the leg. Because the idea is that if this was a real attack, I would be doing this. And maybe even I would take a small step, but then I need to readjust, defending with that ridoppio and striking to the chest. So he doesn't give a foot there, but it could be there. But the idea is we're going here, and then as we find out they're going low because we feel nothing, defend and strike. Up next, we have a three-part punta reversa, which again depends on what my partner does. But we have a riverso to the leg, we have an imrakata to the flank, or we have a second punta reversa to the chest. So, although we can just step, I would still advise making some time first and then going. So we've made that time, we come here, we're going to take their weapon using our dagger and strike to the leg with a reverso. Alternatively, if we find ourselves a bit more bound, we can simply readjust and strike with an imrakata, or we can use the dagger to help us get underneath and strike to the chest. So beat, thrust, pick it up, go up the center. Now, as the person responding, we're going to be using the false edge in either case, whatever we're dealing with. And against the first play, the cut to leg, we're going to simply step back and strike the arm. So they've knocked out of the way, we're going to come back, they go low, we strike the arm as they're going back. If instead it is an imrakata, we're going to beat as they start coming this way. We're going to help them lift our sword to reverse head guard and strike to the head using the outside slip. Now, finally, we have the punta reversa face using the right foot, not the left foot specifically. This is, we're going to see very similar play in cinghiale, where I need a little bit of space here to make sure this happens because I'm doing quite a bit with my arms. So I'm going to step to that side. As they defend, we need to get this in the way, and then allow us to strike to the inside of their thigh with a mandrito. So again, I'm going to step, pick that up, trade, and cut the leg. So I need to make sure that I have plenty of space and time to do this. If I'm very, very close, I won't have the ability to make this exchange and cut that low line. I just won't have there's just no space for it. Now in response, we're going to use entrare to start eliminating that, to start defending, and then if they move on to moving our sword out of the way, that's when we're going to step back and attack the arm or whatever's in the way. So we're going to start doing this as they're going to begin getting our sword out of the way. We're simply going to step back and end up in coluna alta. Finally, we have the cloak. We have 3 plays here. The second one being quite complex, to say the least. But the first one, and actually all of these are variations on the punta versa. So the first one, we are going to start by taking a small step to their right, throwing a stramazzone over their sword. So maybe imagine that we're starting out of distance and then we get to their outside. Then we go. And then we're going to either punta verso the face, cut a leg, punta verso the face, imrakata. So we are here, we're going to do the big stramazzone over top. Now we're on the other side, and we can cut the leg, or we can turn and turn that to imrakata. As the person responding, he uses the low expression, we don't react. We have to do something, so we're going to use our sword to do something, so we don't get hit in the face. We'll use the false edge, and then we are going to step back with that verso, ideally hitting that arm if they're throwing the rotor leg, or we're going to use the true edge to defend against the imrakata and strike with our own thrust, which is what's going to look like this. So when they do the stramazzone, I'm not really going to do anything, but as the punta versa comes in, I'm going to defend. As they go low, we're simply going to change our feet and step back, cut into the arm. Alternatively, if that was an imrakata, we're going to step around and essentially do what they were trying to do to us. Now, part 2 is basically a 5-part action because it draws from previous plays, and there's a few things that he mentions in one part doesn't mention the other part. So I'm going to show the whole thing, and I'm going to demonstrate what he actually mentions here. So the basic idea here is that I am doing the full punta versa and tondo to the head. Now, what he mentions here is that I'm going to feint to the head. So I'm going to give the look of doing this, and I'm going to throw to the head, which is implied, or I'm going to throw to the leg with a riverso. And then we have one more option after that, which is suppressing and striking to the head with a riverso. So let's go like this. So here, beat, thrust, give the look, strike to the head, beat, thrust the face, feint, strike to the leg, or beat, thrust, suppress, and strike to the head. Now, as the person on the receiving end, I want to use entrare to deal with this. And let me just make sure I'm not false. I want to make sure that as I'm doing this, this action, I'm stepping my right foot with the punta versa. So right foot, tondo, right foot, feint, strike to the leg, and then right foot, feint, strike head. And then if we're going to do that suppression, that's going to work better with our left foot, but we can start with that right foot. It'll just be a little bit bigger than it had been. So as they're coming in with their right foot to do this punta reversa, we want to use entrare, which is what we learned in sword in one hand. So as soon as they start walking around, we strike them with the chest. Now if they are going to give us that mandrito to strike to our leg, so we're going to use our false edge, we're going to trade to faccia, because we need to treat as if it's real, and then as they are coming to the leg, we are going to defend and strike. And then if instead we're dealing with the cloak suppression, we're going to do a similar action to what they're doing, except we're going to be going back as opposed to around. And my action, my cut here is actually going to be a dritto strama, so let's show that properly. So as I try to suppress the arm, we're going to take that energy and step back, ending up in cinghiale. Finally, the last thing he mentions is feinting a change of pace. So we've taken this to mean that I'm going to give the look of a punta reversa, then I'm going to change my mind doing a punta dritta. So we're here, the first two plays were both punta reversa, so I'm going to give that look, and then I change immediately to a palm down like position. Now he does not give a response to this, but I need to treat this first part as if it's real, so I'm going to push against it. As they drive over top, we're going to take that and strike to the arm with a dritto stramazzone. And that concludes Iron Gate. Next up we have cinghiale.